students. I'm Gabrielle Kravchuk, the Vice President of PSG, Parkside Student Government, and I'm here to bring to you Ranger Now. It is a great source for you guys to know what's happened on campus and what will be coming up. We're excited for our new episodes this semester and our first one to be about Black History Month. We did a discussion table that took place in OMSA, the Office of Multicultural Student Affairs. It was led by Armani, as some of you may know him as he now works in the Advising and Career Center. Now that you will see all of the great discussions that we had, we want you to keep up with us on our webpage, which is linked on the school site, and we would like you to stay tuned with us on Ranger Now.
What Black History Month means for me, I can think of a few words. A lot of times words can't express what it really means, but when I think of some words, I think about integrity, I think about empowerment, think about struggle, overcomers. I believe of individuals who were before me that, were fighting for me. I have this opportunity to even be here and to continue to fight forward, and that's what keeps me going. And also just thinking about how people may look at Black History Month and saying, why do you need a month, or why do you need such a thing like that? And I look at it and I laugh when I hear comments like that, because it makes me think about how naive the world can be. And I think this is an opportunity for me to express how I believe it's really important that Black history is American history. You can't dissociate or disconnect the two, but it's a part of the bigger picture. And how it affects me is I just want to continue to move forward and do great things with what our ancestors laid forth through slavery or even through the civil rights, and making sure that I keep the tradition going, or even where people may have left off before me, I can make sure I pick it up and keep going. So it's a good time for me to learn about the history in a month, and it's more than just what goes on in America, but also what happened even before in Africa, when we were kings and queens, and we're people with high morals and responsibility and accountability. So that's just a few things of what I think about when I consider Black History Month.
You've said quite a bit, Armani, and kind of covered what some of the things I think it embodies for me. Black History, when I grew up, it was not Black History Month, it was Black History Week. And I lived to be able to see it develop into a month-long activity or celebration. And I think I really think of my grandparents a lot when I think of Black history. There are always those heroes or individuals that I would learn about, whether it was Carter G. Woodson or Rosa Parks, but I was fortunate enough to have in my family individuals who I felt contributed to society. My grandmother always told me when I was young that her dad had sold a milk cow so she could ride a dummy train to go to high school. And so what that meant was, as most farmers had prized possessions or small numbers of, maybe one milk cow, that was a big commodity back then. A dummy train is an empty freight train. So her high school went to 8th grade, and there were no high schools in the community or in her county. So she rode the dummy train to the next county over. And I think she was 14, maybe. So I think of her in she was born in 1910, so what is that, about 1925 or something, going on this journey to go to high school because she wanted to not only embetter herself, but also to give something back to the community. And so I remember telling my children, your great-great-grandfather, sold a milk cow, so you've got a legacy. You have to finish. This is something you have to do. And so Black history has that kind of meaning for me. It's a personal legacy. It's a personal responsibility, not just for my own, but then also to provide or to provide leadership and to be to embody, I think, for students maybe some of what I bring with me to campus.
I think what Black history means for me is empowerment. I we think of like Black history, we think of Black historians, and we think of our forefathers and our ancestors that fought, so hard to get us to where we are today. And then we look at society sometimes, and we look at all the things that's going on within our society, and it's like, at the end of the day, when I think of it, I think of the everything that they fought for, like, and how we sometimes tend to overlook it, like, day to day. And then for me, just to be empowered to be able to go to school, or to be able to be in a leadership role, or to be able to share with somebody else just my struggle, or something of that nature, it empowers me.
For me, Black History Month, this specific Black History Month has been the most rewarding for me on a personal level. Not only have I been able to connect with many people that I didn't get to experience over my 5 years here at Parkside, I've gone through some events, networking. It's not just about the history, but what we are doing today, how we are impacting the world for tomorrow. Black history is every day. I think this month is important because we need to remind ourselves that Black history is every day. It's not just about what happened before, but how we are going to take that and run with it for the future. Many things that I focus on within knowledge, as far as the police brutality and, mass incarceration, some of the things that our community is going through right now weighs heavy on my heart, and this month has been the most uplifting for me to be able to see that change is possible through my classmates, my professors. So yeah, specifically this Black History Month has been very powerful for me.
I would say Black History Month for me is a time for us to recognize and give an acknowledgement to the people who have opened the doors for us to be able to do the things that we are able to do now, as Black people. And Black history, I feel like it's very important to know, because a lot of people don't know, why we are where we are right now. And it's because what they've done in the past, is the reason why we're able to do what we are doing today. And I feel like this Black History Month, for me, has been very special as well. I've recognized and got to know a lot about my Black history that I did not know, previously. So I feel like this month is something that is, is become very important to me. And I feel like for others, it's starting to become very important to them as well. And I feel like if this month wasn't here, a lot of, people wouldn't get the chance or the opportunity to know about their Black history. So I feel that, it's very important, it's starting to move more closer to me, tomorrow as well, to want to get to know more about my Black history and ask the questions why, and just keep moving forward with it. So.
Black History Month for me, I could say growth and change come to mind. Growth and change are both very inevitable, and so is our culture. So seeing where we've come from to where we are now, it's been so much, but there's still a lot more to do. And I can say it makes me realize how valuable my education is, how much I've taken for granted to get to this point, and what I need to do to further better myself, to be a better example, and to be a better leader and be that innovator that the ones that came before me were.
Yeah, I used to always love Black History Month growing up. I used to remember reading about Dr. Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks in elementary school, and going to sing "We Shall Overcome" in celebrations. And I used to always love going to school, and I never really thought about how much more history we had until I really got to college. I remember reading books about Stokely Carmichael and Angela Davis, and looking at how they empower everybody. And me, as I'm trying to empower the youth now, looking at them as role models and using what they did to help me, and not only help me, but help the youth and help the community that I live in.
You know, for me, Black History Month was, and still is, about family. And, you know, just getting the chance to be able to talk to fathers, uncles, nieces, nephews, cousins, all those folks who come before me and who have struggled and gotten me to this point, or my family to this point in life. And, you know, so that, I understand that's a blessing, right? To be able to be in this place and to get an education, whereas, you know, before those opportunities weren't available to us. They were actually blocked. We were blocked from having that education. And, you know, now I'm working hard to make sure that my children understand, you know, what it has taken for us to get to this point, and not to waste any time, and to not to waste their education, and, you know, let that history be lost. We have a lot to do as Black individuals, but we've come a long ways, and we can do even more if we keep going. And it's, you know, it's these folks right here who are going to do it. And, you know, they got positive attitudes and great ideas, and, you know, they understand their blessings, and if they go with that, we'll go everywhere.
So for me, Black history is it's complex, but it's simple all at the same time. Like, I think as I'm hearing everybody speak, one of the things that kept coming to my mind is there's a quote that, and you might can help me with who the original stater is, but there's a person who says we're not where we want to be, but thank God we're not where we used to be. Mm-hmm. And so to me, that encompasses it all, right? Like, we have to know where we used to be to get to where we want to go, but at the same time, the people who've done those things for us to get here, we have a responsibility to build more, to help, you know, to continue their legacy. But at the same time, we have a responsibility to take a breath and just be happy about what they've done, right? Like, so Black history to me, it represents beautiful, you know, just black beauty. It represents some exemptions, like we have to have a month because some of these things aren't taught early on. But at the same time, there's always the possibility, right? And the strength and the courage that folks had prior to getting to this point and to be in this blessed space and having this opportunity is just a major accomplishment. It represents major accomplishments, and it should be encouraging and uplifting and helping us to think that, well, we believe that you all are going to do wonderful things, phenomenal things. Like, there's no question about that. But helping us all to have that mindset. So that's what it means.
So a question I have is how, because I know yesterday from the Life of Rudy, the Life Essentials with Ruby D, Muta was talking about how our generation is more complacent and more so than the generations before, and how, you know, we settle and we're okay with, you know, the decency of life, and how do we, if it's not okay, how do we challenge ourselves? Is a good question for you all.
I guess I'll go first. But it was a part in the movie that I seen where they said, you know, people were scared. I mean, for the Black Panther Party, like, oh, I don't want to get involved. You know, it's getting too violent, things like that. And I would say, like, for this generation, I just think people just have to be willing to say, like, they're not ready. You know, there's never a time when you know where you're going to be ready. You just have to act and do it. You know, and on that action, for part of you taking that action, you know, can become wonderful things. So, like, just not having fear and, you know, what you believe in, and just going on and just doing it, you know, and whatever the outcome, you know, outcome is going to be, but, you know, at least you tried. So just putting that one foot forward can do wonders.
I don't know that I would call it complacency. Your generation has a different struggle, you know, and I recognize and acknowledge that as an old head, so to speak, having experienced some segregation, it afforded us some things that were lost through integration. And there's some benefits of that, and, you know, positives, and there's some negatives. So I don't know that I would say necessarily that you're complacent. I think your activism is different. You know, you are one of the, I think, beauties of your generation is that you are much more tolerant and civil of diversity in ways in which my generation was not. So I don't want to say that that you are complacent. I think your activism is different.
I would have to agree with you. I think for our generation, some of the activism is going to have to change with our innovation. We will have to get creative in the ways that we fight oppression, the way we connect with each other, the way we bring up the next generation after us, and understanding that the world is ever-changing and very quickly. But going with that creativity, that innovation of what our generation has to offer, we can't do it. Like, I think one of the things he was talking about was the marches. Our marches, valuable, and I think he was going on to say that they are valuable to a certain extent, but there has to be follow-through after that. But not just follow-through. I think we're just going to have to use a different mindset for that activism to be able to come true.
Yeah.
But the issues are different now, right? So you have to respond in a different way, right? Like you wouldn't use the same things that occurred or the same responses that occurred to different problems. I think, if you think back during civil rights, there were signs over water faucets or bubblets or doors you could use, and those aren't the things that's present now. So what you're experiencing now, you need to figure out how to respond to that in a way that it meets your needs.
And I can agree too. It's not so much complacency. I think it's more so finding out what your purpose is or what your niche is, and that can all carry on into the type of activism you want to partake in. I noticed in the film with Asi and Ruby, it was just effortless for them, and for that would be something I think for our generation would be really tough to handle. But they made it look so easy. But that was because it was their purpose. We have to find out what works for us in order for us to act in the correct way. And it takes time to get there. So, of course, with all of us being of younger age, everybody doesn't get it all at the same time. So it takes time, and when your time comes is when you act.
Yeah, I agree with him. Like, on my quoting Tupac, he said, I might not change the world, but I might inspire somebody who can. Like, with a mindset like that, you do you, and hopefully everything else falls in place. You might not do a lot, but you might do a little that'll help a lot.
Well, and I agree with that. I think little things make big changes, especially if everybody does their little part. It may be that you as a professional get the opportunity to change other CEOs' ways of thinking about an African-American employee, or whatever it may be, just because of how you act, how you interact with one another, individuals, so on and so forth, how you carry yourself. Those things seem small, but then they change minds over time, and it expands exponentially and pretty quickly. So you do your little part. You do your little thing, and that's part of change. It doesn't always have to be a big march.
I think a lot of the things that our generation currently deals with, in terms of complacency, I wouldn't call it complacency either. I think that because we are faced with such a changing society, and it's always something changing, and it's never just this one day, it's always this one day and the next thing the next day, that sometimes we are hesitant or reluctant to be active in such a manner where it doesn't seem like we're doing too much, because it's changing, and once you speak up, it's either you're gonna be stamped with that person who spoke up and be the outcast, or you're gonna be the other person. So it's just kind of finding a fit within that like ever changing society that we stay in right now or living in right now.
What are some pros and cons of the present Black community?
I think one of the largest pros we have is the internet. We can reach a lot of people through the internet fast. We don't have to send a telegram through mail for 1,000 people to be at one place right here. But maybe me and March can take place just like that, just over the internet. And communication is a big pro we have today.
That's definitely a pro, you know, and I'm thinking from a slightly different generation or different side. I think the internet has taken away the family and those big get-togethers that we used to have, where everybody got together and really talked and hugged and kissed and cried and laughed and did all that and ate, and told lies and jokes and things like that.
We still do that.
You know,
We still eat
and really were really connected to one another, knew everyone's struggles and joys, and you know, holding babies and all that stuff. You know, we miss that because that builds community both in the family, but then in the community, and then so on and so forth. The internet is great, and it's an asset, but don't forget to go home and hug mom and dad and aunt and uncle and niece and nephew and all that stuff.
I was going to tease you, Professor Baylor, let the students know that we're cousins, and we work in the same institution and have a hard time getting together. And in terms of finding the family tree, he was able to connect me to it on the internet, you know, tell me what the website was so I could find the rest of the Baylors. You know. But that's the kind of change that you all deal with that I didn't have to deal with, and Trenton didn't have to deal with to some extent. But seeing people like Damien, Mr. Evans grow up, and, you know, Abby, having watched her mature, you know, over 5 years, I'm hopeful rather than hopeless, you know, about what you all are accomplishing and will be able to accomplish. And because you have a thirst for knowledge about history, Black history, and how it impacts you, I believe you will do some of those things in terms of family and community, and sharing and reaching people.
I think one of the cons is also the internet and just social media. Sometimes we look at how we as a people, or me myself personally, I feel like sometimes when we look at how we are portrayed sometimes through social media and just the media in general, a lot of times it shines a negative light on who we are as a people. Sometimes it simply shows just not all of who we are as African Americans, and it shows like the glitz and glamour and the struggle and the negativity from African Americans, and it puts a stigma on us as a people, and it's hurtful sometimes, you see.
I think we have to figure out how to use the internet to get some of those other aspects of us out there. I think what happens also is that many of us that work in those other arenas, we don't take the time to engage in that. So it's a balancing. It's an inanimate object, right? Like, but we make it be what we make it be, and we have to spend the time to promote those other images.
Good point.
I don't want to talk a lot, but I do want to say this. Another con is, I think, not recognizing the value and the power of our collective dollars. You know, we spend a lot of money, and so maybe a march isn't appropriate, but where we spend our money can be very important and can really affect change, whether it's at a campus bookstore or cafe or market or at one of a super buildings or companies where people sell food, yet they refuse to pay their employee much more than a minimum wage.
And I could say also about the social media, I'd say like it does give a negative light, you know what I mean, like on who we are as people, and it's also getting to the younger generation, you know, the people that's after, the people that are coming up. They're saying things like, you know, like you said, like as far as the struggle, you know, selling drugs, you know, talking to women any type of way, you know, all these different type of things, and the younger generation are seeing that and picking up on that. You know, I feel that, you know, there could be more, you know what I mean, like Black History put out there, you know, showing them the positive way to do things, you know, that you don't have to, you know, be in a struggle. You can have more. You can be somebody. You know, you can be this, you can be that. But you know, social media is such a powerful thing in this generation, to the point where, you know, whatever is out there, you know, that it's catching their eyes and people are picking up on it. You know, and you know, I feel that, you know, it's people, you know, people like us, or, you know, other people as well, that, you know, can do something, you know, without in the community, or as far as, like, you know, taking a step to put something on social media to reach out to somebody, so they can, you know, in their generation can reach out to somebody, you know, so better, so people can start seeing better and not always the worst.
All right, thank you all. I think that's a wrap.
Ranger Now.